If you read just 10 pages a day, you'll finish about 3,650 pages in a year. That's roughly 15 books. Over 10 years, that becomes 150 books. And yet most of us won't stick with something this small, because the results don't show up immediately. So we stop. But tiny improvements don't just add up, they multiply. Not only your reading list, but your money, your habits, your relationships, and ultimately, your entire life. This is the core idea behind the compound effect by Darren Hardy. In this video, we'll break down each step of the compound effect so you can start using it to change your trajectory. Compounding doesn't just apply to your life. Let me show you a book. The book. Everything around us is the result of thousands of small discoveries layered on top of each other over centuries. Now imagine, if tomorrow everything disappeared, no internet, no electricity, no modern systems, how would you rebuild civilization from scratch? How do you make fire? How do you find drinkable water? The book doesn't just answer those questions. It rebuilds civilization page by page. It gathers everything humanity has learned: science, engineering, psychology, art, and more. What I love is that it's not just information. It's art, pure art. Visually, it's beautiful. Over 400 pages, hand-drawn illustrations, engineering diagrams mixed with medieval-style art. The paper, the texture, the weight of the book, it genuinely feels like you're holding something very important in your hands. The book was created by Hungry Minds, an international group of artists, scientists, architects, and designers. More than 50 people worked on it. It was crowdfunded globally, raised over $2 million, and became an international bestseller. And honestly, I understand why. This feels like the kind of object you keep for life. It inspires curiosity. It makes you appreciate how fragile and how incredible civilization really is. Everything we take for granted today exists only because knowledge compounded over time. If you're curious, you'll find the link in the description. You can get 10% off with the code ANTIDOTE10. Thank you to Hungry Minds for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to it. Chapter 1. You don't see it happening. Which would you choose? $3 million in cash today, or 1 penny that doubles in value every day for 31 days? Most people take the $3 million immediately. And at first, they'd feel right. After 10 days, your penny is barely worth $10. After 20 days, it's still only around $5,000. While the person who took the cash seems to be winning, you're still barely making any money. But if you stay patient and let it compound, by day 31, that single penny is worth more than $10 million. It's more than 3 times the obvious choice. That's how compounding works. It rewards patience, not impulse. Every choice you make, every action you repeat day after day, is quietly adding up. Most of the time, you don't notice it happening, until one day, you can't ignore it anymore. That's why the compound effect is so hard to grasp. It's abstract. So let's make it concrete. If you start saving just $1 a day, it feels pointless at first. But after a year, that's $365. After 5 years, almost $1,800. If you spend 30 minutes a day learning a new skill, by the end of the year, you've invested over 180 hours into that skill. And if you spend 30 minutes less per day on your phone, you free up those same 180 hours for your health, your relationships, or your future. Skip 1 cookie you usually eat as a weekday snack, and you save roughly 150 calories per day. That doesn't sound like much, but over a year, that adds up to around 40,000 calories avoided, roughly 5 kilos of body fat. That's the core idea of the compound effect. It's not massive actions that transform your life. It's the accumulation of tiny actions repeated consistently over time. The problem is that this process doesn't feel rewarding at the start. So you stop running after 1 week because the scale hasn't moved. You stop learning Spanish because you're still bad at it. You stop saving money because it doesn't feel like it's making a difference. That impatience is exactly what prevents the compound effect from ever kicking in. Success doesn't come from intensity. It comes from what you're willing to repeat consistently when no one is watching. To see how this plays out in real life, consider 3 friends, Larry, Scott, and Brad, all starting in the exact same place, same neighborhood, similar income, same stage of life. Larry is fine with his life, not happy, not miserable. So he changes nothing, and occasionally complains that nothing ever changes. Scott wants things to improve, but he doesn't want to turn his life upside down. So he makes a few small adjustments, nothing dramatic. He reads 10 pages a day. He listens to 30 minutes of educational content during his commute. He walks a bit more, less than a mile, and he eats 125 fewer calories per day by skipping a soda or slightly reducing portions. That's it. Brad goes in the opposite direction. He wants to relax more. He buys a bigger TV. He starts trying rich recipes and desserts he sees on TV, eating about 125 extra calories per day. Again, nothing extreme, just small choices. After 5 months, nothing has changed. They all look the same, live the same, feel the same. After 10 months, still nothing noticeable. This is where most people would quit. But as time keeps moving, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. After 31 months, Scott is lean and energetic. He's lost around 15 kilograms without aggressive dieting. By reading just 10 pages a day, he's finished around 30 books. By listening for 30 minutes a day, he's absorbed over 180 hours of learning, roughly the classroom time of a university semester. He applies what he's learned. He earns a promotion. His confidence grows. His marriage is stronger. Brad, meanwhile, has gained 15 kilograms. He's tired, unmotivated, unhappy at work, and his relationship is falling apart. There's now a 30-kilogram difference between two men who started in the same place. And Larry? He's still exactly where he was 2 years ago, except now he's more frustrated about it. When the compound effect finally shows results, it looks like overnight success. But in reality, it's just small, smart choices, repeated consistently, long before anyone was paying attention. And beneath the surface, something else is happening. One small habit never stays isolated. The choices we make in one area of life affect other areas. This is the ripple effect. One small choice never stays isolated. It creates a chain reaction, and this works both ways, positive and negative. Brad didn't just gain weight. Poor food choices made him tired. Fatigue affected his mood. His mood hurt his performance. That stress followed him home, and his relationship suffered. Meanwhile, Scott experienced the opposite. He had more energy, better health, stronger relationships, and even a promotion from something he learned in a podcast. That's the real power of the compound effect. It's always working, every day, in every area of your life. The only question is whether it's working for you or against you. As Darren Hardy puts it, your only path to success is through a continuum of mundane, unsexy, unexciting, and sometimes difficult daily disciplines compounded over time. And those daily disciplines are nothing more than choices. Chapter 2. The direction you're choosing. Most damage in life doesn't come from big mistakes. It comes from small, unconscious choices, repeated day after day. That's why Darren Hardy presents the following chain. Every choice starts something. A repeated choice becomes a behavior. A repeated behavior becomes a habit. And over time, those habits decide where you end up, for better or worse. So how do you take control of your choices? Darren Hardy breaks it down into 2 steps. First, take 100% ownership. Let's start with a simple question. What percentage of responsibility do you have in making a relationship work? Most people say it's 50-50, there are 2 people involved. Wrong! If there's one idea Darren Hardy insists on more than any other, it's this. You are 100% responsible for the results in your life. In any relationship, it only works when both people give 100%, with zero expectations in return. And this principle doesn't stop at relationships. It applies to your health, your income, your success, and your happiness. The moment you take full responsibility, you take back control of your life. Blaming your partner, your parents, your boss, or even the weather may feel good in the moment, but it costs you your power. Until you can say honestly, I am where I am today because of the choices I made yesterday, you can't say, I can change where I'm going. Because without that ownership, it's easy to think, okay, but my friends just seem luckier than I am. And to that, Darren Hardy gives a clear answer. Luck isn't random. It's cause and effect. In his view, the difference between being rich, healthy, and fulfilled or poor, stressed and unhappy, comes down to the choices made over time. What people call luck is usually the result of 4 things: preparation, attitude, opportunity, and action. Preparation. This is everything you do before the opportunity shows up. Building skills, gaining knowledge, improving your health, expanding your network. It's the daily work you do when nothing exciting seems to be happening. Attitude. This is how you interpret what happens to you. Do you see problems as setbacks or as feedback? Do you see challenges as unfair or as something you can learn from? Your attitude determines whether you recognize an opportunity when it appears or miss it completely. Opportunity. These are the moments life puts in front of you. A meeting, a conversation, a job opening, an idea. Action. This is what you do when opportunity shows up. Do you act or hesitate? Do you follow through or wait until later? Because opportunity without action is invisible. Opportunities come to everyone, but prepared people recognize them. Others miss them. That's not random luck. That's choice. But responsibility alone isn't enough, because you can't change what you don't see. So, before you try to change anything, Hardy insists on a second step: awareness. The problem isn't that people intentionally make bad choices. Nobody wakes up and decides, I want to be unhealthy, broke, unhappy. Bad results usually come from unconscious choices. You open YouTube for a minute and lose an hour. You grab a soda and a bag of chips without thinking. You check your phone automatically. Each moment feels harmless, but repeated daily, these moments shape your future. This is why Hardy says most people are sleepwalking through their choices. Ask yourself, how many of my daily behaviors did I consciously choose? What am I doing every day without ever deciding to do it? To break that autopilot, Hardy suggests one simple move: track your actions, because you can't manage or improve what you don't measure. Start small. Just pick one area of your life you want to improve: health, money, productivity, fitness. Then commit, I am going to start tracking my spending on March 1st, 2026. Once you've chosen, track everything related to it. Carry a small notebook or use your phone. You're not doing this to judge or fix anything. You're doing it to observe. Write everything down every day with no exceptions. If your goal is to get out of debt, track every dollar you spend. If your goal is to lose weight, track everything you eat. And if your goal is fitness, track every workout. Tracking creates moment-to-moment awareness. It shows you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and what you didn't realize you were doing at all. Once awareness kicks in, you stop sleepwalking through your life. As you become conscious of your choices, you take ownership of them, and the choices you repeat become your habits. Chapter 3. You're not in control. A man is riding a horse at full speed. Someone shouts, "Where are you going?" The man replies, "I don't know. Ask the horse." That's how most people live. They don't control their lives. Their habits do. Because once a behavior becomes automatic, it starts running your life on autopilot. So how do you actually take control of your habits? Two things matter. First, avoid instant gratification. Bad habits are seductive because they reward you immediately and punish you later. Good habits are difficult to hold because they punish you now and reward you later. And that delay is everything. You're not fighting laziness. You're fighting biology, emotion, and time delay. Left unchecked, habits can pull your life in the wrong direction without you even noticing. That's why Darren Hardy says you need systems. Simple structures that make good habits easier and bad habits harder. So instead of relying on willpower, you change the conditions around the habit. To make bad habits harder, start with awareness and environment. Here's the core strategy. First, identify the trigger. Take your habit list and ask 3 questions. When does it happen? Where does it happen? And who are you with? Do you always reach for your phone when you feel bored? Do you snack late at night while watching videos? Second, clean your environment. Remove what makes the habit easy. If it's not there, there's nothing to resist. Third, replace the habit. Don't just remove a bad habit, swap it. Because if nothing replaces it, the old behavior usually comes back. Fourth, choose your approach. Some habits are best reduced slowly, step by step. Others only change when you quit completely. There's no universal rule here. What matters is choosing one approach and committing to it. Now that bad habits are harder to do, let's make good habits easier. Good habits stick when they're supported, not forced. Here's how. First, design your environment. Shape your surroundings to support the habits you want. If the habit is right in front of you, you'll do it. If it's out of reach, you probably won't. Second, think in terms of addition, not deprivation. Don't focus on what you're giving up. Focus on what you're adding. Better food, more energy, more time. Third, use accountability, especially public accountability. Tell friends, family, or coworkers what you're working on. The moment others know, you're more likely to stick with it. Fourth, don't do it alone. Find a partner working toward a similar goal. Shared effort creates momentum and support. Fifth, use friendly competition. Turn habits into a game. Track progress together. A little competition keeps habits engaging. And finally, celebrate progress. Reward consistency, Mark milestones. Habits stick when they feel satisfying. But even with the right strategies, something can still break your habits. That thing is meaning. So the second key is find your why power, because habits fail when they're not connected to something that matters. If you don't know why you want something, you'll quit as soon as it gets uncomfortable. That's why you need clarity in 4 areas: your core values, your personal battle, your goals, and most importantly, who you need to become. So your why power starts with your core values. They are the standards you use to decide what matters and what doesn't. When your values aren't clear, you may find yourself making choices that conflict with what you want. Imagine saying you value health, but staying up late scrolling every night. Or saying you value freedom, but spending money without thinking month after month. That gap creates tension. You feel off, frustrated, drained. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance. It's the discomfort you feel when your actions don't match what you believe matters. When your habits align with your values, that friction disappears. Decisions become simpler because you know what to do. Another source of your why power is your personal battle. You can find motivation in your pain. From a failure that still bothers you. From being ignored when you should have been noticed. From rejection that made you question yourself. From an injustice that still feels unresolved. Many people don't succeed because life was easy. They succeed because they stop running from these moments and start using them as fuel. You also need clarity on your goals and your identity. Goals matter because if you don't know where you're going, your effort goes in every direction. You stay busy, but you don't move forward. As Paul J. Meyer, a mentor to Darren Hardy, once said, "If you are not making the progress you're capable of making, it's because your goals are not clearly defined." Clear goals give your habits a target. They tell you what to say yes to and what to stop doing. That's why Hardy insists on setting goals across all areas of life. And the most important question isn't, what do I need to do to reach my goal? It's, who do I need to become? Jim Rohn captured this perfectly when he said, if you want to have more, you have to become more. Success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become. Goals give you the destination. Identity determines whether you stay on the path, and your habits are the bridge between the two. After a while, effort stops feeling heavy. Progress starts to carry itself. That's when momentum kicks in. Chapter 4. When things finally start to move. If you keep showing up anyway, something changes. Small results begin to appear. That shift is momentum. And once that happens, progress begins to feel almost natural. That's why Darren Hardy says momentum is the ally of all successful people. But momentum amplifies whatever direction you're already moving in. So your job isn't to be perfect. Your job is to keep the chain alive. If you plan to work out for an hour but feel exhausted, do 10 minutes. If you plan to write a page, write 1 paragraph. If you plan to eat perfectly and messed up once, don't quit the day. On bad days, don't aim for excellence. Aim for showing up, because showing up keeps momentum intact. This idea comes straight from physics. Newton's first law, also called the law of inertia, says this: objects at rest tend to stay at rest. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion. That's exactly how life works. When you're inactive, starting feels hard. When you're already in motion, stopping feels hard. That's why successful people often keep getting more successful. They protect momentum and progress feels easier. And that's also why changing direction when you're stuck feels so difficult. Think about a rocket launch. A space shuttle uses more fuel in the first few minutes after liftoff than it does during the rest of its entire journey. Why? Because it has to break free from gravity. Once it escapes that pull, it no longer needs nearly as much force. The hardest part isn't moving forward. It's getting off the ground. So how do you build momentum? Momentum comes from structure and repetition. You start by making better choices aligned with your goals and values. You repeat those choices until they become habits. You organize those habits into routines. This allows you to stay consistent long enough for momentum to take over. That's why routines matter so much. A routine is something you do every day without thinking. It's the structure that locks habits into place and supports your goals. And because it removes decision-making, many high performers rely on routines. Take Serena Williams. She is well known for relying on strict pre-match and post-match routines. The same warm-ups, the same recovery habits, the same preparation. Structure creates stability, and stability protects momentum. When you turn habits into routines, you create rhythm. Rhythm is a strong, regular, repeated pattern of action. It gives structure to your days, weeks, and months, and reinforces the direction you're moving in. Hardy's rule is simple. Aim for actions you can repeat, not actions that burn you out in a week, because momentum doesn't reward intensity. It rewards continuity. But there's one more thing that can quietly destroy momentum: the influences surrounding you. Chapter 5. What's quietly shaping who you are and what you do? Even though you are fully responsible for your choices, those choices are never made alone. Every day, they are shaped by forces around you: what you feed your mind, who you spend time with, and the environment you live in. Let's go through them one by one. First, mind input. What you feed your mind. Your mind is being influenced every day. The real question isn't if it's being influenced, it's by what. Whatever you allow into your brain shapes how you think, and how you think determines how you act. That makes you the gatekeeper of your mind. But most people leave the gate wide open. When people want high physical performance, they watch what they eat. They don't fuel their body with junk and expect peak energy. Your mind works the same way. That's why Darren Hardy compares the mind to an empty glass. If you don't choose the input, the world will fill it for you. And most of the time, it fills it with dirty water, negative headlines, mindless content, information that feels urgent but changes nothing in your life. That kind of input doesn't make you informed. It makes you distracted, anxious, and mentally overloaded. Hardy's rule is simple: garbage in, garbage out. If you constantly feed your mind low-quality information, you can't expect high-quality thinking. So if you want better thoughts, better focus, and better decisions, you have to flush out the dirty water and replace it with clear water. Clear water is information that strengthens you, personal development, skill building, ideas that expand your thinking, stories of people who overcame obstacles. Your mind is not neutral. What you feed it today becomes how you think tomorrow. So how do you do that in practice? Hardy gives 2 concrete strategies. First, stand guard. Your attention is under constant attack. Media is designed to hijack your emotions, not help you grow. So put yourself on a media diet, cancel subscriptions you don't need, limit content that leaves your mind full but undernourished. Second, enroll in Drive Time U. Your commute is one of the easiest places to upgrade your mind. Stop wasting hundreds of hours every year in your car. Turn that time into a classroom. Audiobooks, educational podcasts, skill-building content. Do this consistently, and you'll accumulate hundreds of hours each year learning finance, psychology, productivity, or any field that sharpens your thinking. That's the power of mind input. What you allow in today becomes how you think tomorrow, and how you think determines how you act. Which means mind input is never neutral. It's either helping you grow or quietly holding you back. Second, associations. Who you spend time with. Whether you realize it or not, you're being influenced by the people around you. Darren Hardy calls this your reference group. The people you habitually spend time with. They influence what you normalize, what you tolerate, and what feels possible. Over time, you start to think like them, you react like them, and you adopt their standards. As Jim Rohn famously said, we become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. That's why associations matter. To make this practical, here are 3 categories that organize your relationships. First, dissociations. These are people who consistently pull you backward. They complain, resist growth, and reinforce limiting beliefs. Hardy is direct here. Some relationships don't need fixing, they need distance. Second, limited associations. These are people you can't avoid. Family, co-workers, old friends. With them, the rule is boundaries. You decide how much influence they get. Dissociations and limited associations protect you from being pulled backward. The third group is made up of people who actively move you forward. Third, expanded associations. These are the people you want more of in your life. People who already live the way you want to live. People whose habits, values, and standards raise yours. The fastest way to grow is proximity. If you want higher standards, be around people who live by them, a partner or a mentor. And associations aren't only physical. Through books, podcasts, and ideas, you can learn from people you've never met, even those who are no longer alive. As Charlie Munger said, you can make friends with the eminent dead. Third, environment. The environment you live in. Your environment is shaping you more than you think because it directly influences your willpower. But willpower is fragile and limited, and the reason is simple. Your brain's survival systems are designed to keep you alive and constantly scan for threats. So, when your environment is filled with noise, negativity, and distraction, your mind stays in survival mode, and in that state, your willpower drains faster than it can recover. As a result, focus drops, anxiety rises, and momentum slows. So, if you want to succeed, your surroundings must support your growth. If your gym is far away, you won't go. If it's close and fits your schedule, you will. If you want to eat healthier, change what's in your fridge. Your environment is either pulling you forward or dragging you back. So design it deliberately. Make your surroundings a silent partner in your success. Now you're aware of how external forces influence your choices. There's still one thing that separates people from success and failure: how they act when things get hard. Chapter 6. Where most people stop. There comes a moment when you're tested, a moment when it gets uncomfortable. And that's when most people stop. Darren Hardy calls these moments of truth. And this is where acceleration happens. That's why difficulty is not a setback, it's an advantage. Because persistence during hard moments is what separates you from the crowd. When conditions are easy, everyone shows up. When conditions get hard, most people pull back. Hardy explains that real growth accelerates in 3 specific ways. First, overcome obstacles well. Obstacles are inevitable. Everyone hits walls. And the difference comes down to the choice you make when resistance shows up. You can slow down, complain, or justify stopping. Or you can decide to become the toughest competitor in the room. Hardy's principle is simple. When it gets hard, go a little further. Second, beat the expectation. Most people aim for good enough. They meet expectations. They do what's required. Then they stop. That's why they rarely produce extraordinary results. Acceleration happens when you raise your standards after the expectation has already been met. When others stop at enough, you deliver a little more, better quality, more care, more follow-through. Over time, exceeding expectations compounds into reputation, trust, and opportunity. Third, do the unexpected. If you do what everyone else does, you'll get the same results. If you follow the average path, you end up with the average outcome. Hardy challenges you to look at what's typical, comfortable, and popular, and then choose differently. Small, unconventional choices made consistently separate you from the majority without requiring massive effort. This is how results multiply. So in your own life, look for opportunities to accelerate. Look for moments when it would be easier to stop, because over time, that small edge compounds into extraordinary results.